In the world of modern shipping, things are bigger, faster, and more complex than ever before. But for all the incredible technology, the most critical component on any vessel is still the same, the human being. So that's what we're digging into today. How do you train that human element for the immense pressures of life at sea? Out on the open ocean or navigating a tight channel, seafarers are under constant pressure. Think about it. A single calculation, one single judgment call can literally be the difference between a safe trip and a total disaster. I mean, the responsibility is just enormous. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the sheer complexity of the job, the pressure at sea. Then we'll talk about a major shift in thinking required to handle it. After that, we'll break down how you actually train your perception and how you train for decisive action. And we'll wrap up with the foundation that holds it all together. To really get why this kind of training is such a game changer, we have to start by appreciating the incredible mental workload a seafarer is juggling, every single minute of every single day. Now, don't worry, this isn't a pop quiz on naval architecture. This is just a little snapshot of the constant mental math that's going on just to keep a massive ship safe. They're processing all these dynamic variables all the time, like vessel squat, which is how the ship sinks lower in the water at speed, all the way down to the stability of the seabed they're sailing over. And get this is the baseline. This is before anything has even started to go wrong. So here's the million-dollar question, right? When the everyday environment is this demanding, just knowing the procedures isn't going to be enough. The rulebook can't cover every single possibility. So what happens when you're hit with something totally new? How do you actually build the capacity to adapt and succeed, not just survive? Well, the answer lies in a really fundamental shift in thinking. It's about moving away from just trying to avoid failure and moving towards actively building the capacity for success. The answer, in a word, is resilience. So this is the core idea. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back after something bad happens. It's the ability to take a hit, respond effectively, and maybe even learn and adapt to get stronger. It's all about making sure things go right, especially when everything seems determined to make them go wrong. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. For a big idea like resilience to mean anything, it can't just be some fancy theory. It has to be practical. It has to give you something you can actually use on a Tuesday afternoon when the pressure is on. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. A holistic training program designed to turn resilience from a buzzword into a concrete, trainable set of skills. It's built on these really practical modules that get right at the heart of how we think, how we act, and maybe most importantly, how we take care of ourselves. Okay, so let's break down the first piece of this puzzle. It all starts with how we see the world around us. Because our reaction to something isn't based on the event itself, but on the story we tell ourselves about what that event means. This difference is absolutely critical. A fact is just what it is, objective reality. But an assumption, that's our interpretation, and it's colored by our past experiences, our mood, you name it. When the pressure's on, it is dangerously easy to treat our assumptions like they're solid facts, and that can lead to some seriously unsafe decisions. They call this the ladder of inference, and it shows just how fast we can jump to conclusions. You start with a simple fact. The binoculars aren't where you left them. Then you start climbing. Step 2, you assume someone moved them. Step 3, that assumption hardens into a belief. People have no respect for my stuff. And step 4, that belief drives an action, like chewing out a crewmate, who might have had nothing to do with it. And this can all happen in the blink of an eye. So how do you stop yourself from racing up that ladder? You do it by asking these simple but powerful challenging questions. This forces you to hit the pause button and separate what you know from what you think. Is there actually any evidence for my thought? Could there be another explanation? Oh, wait a minute, now I remember. I put them in the other locker because of the storm. It seems simple, but that mental check can completely de-escalate a situation and lead to much clearer, safer thinking. So once you can see a situation clearly, the next challenge is to actually do something. This next part of the training is all about making effective decisions, especially when time is critical and doing nothing is a decision in itself. When we make a decision, we're really using two different systems. You've got your heart or gut response. That's the fast, immediate feeling that something just isn't right. It's your internal alarm bell. Then you've got your head logic response. That's the slower, more analytical part of your brain that uses your training and experience. To make a great decision under pressure, you need both. Your gut tells you there's a fire, but your head tells you how to fight it. But sometimes we just get stuck, we freeze. And that's where we have to learn to spot the blockers that lead to indecision. So if you're worried about making the wrong call, the strategy is to actually plan for what could go wrong. Don't feel like you have enough information? Okay, list what you need, but also weigh the risk of waiting against the risk of acting now. Afraid of looking foolish? Just run your logic by someone else you trust. Simply naming the thing that's holding you back is often the key to overcoming it and taking that decisive, safe action. So, we've talked about training our perception and our ability to act. But honestly, none of that works if the person at the very center of it all isn't in a good place. And that brings us to the final, and I would argue the most important pillar of resilience. I mean, this analogy just says it all, doesn't it? When your job is safety critical, taking care of yourself isn't a luxury. It's a core professional responsibility. Your mental and physical health are the most important tools you bring to work every single day. Neglecting them is like a mechanic never cleaning their wrenches. Sooner or later, something's going to break. The program uses this idea of a well-being wheel to visualize it. And what it shows is that well-being isn't just one thing. It's a balance of getting proper sleep, eating well, staying connected to people back home, feeling like you're doing a good job, and really knowing the people you work with. Each one of these spokes supports the entire wheel. And this is the bottom line. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. In this line of work, it's the absolute prerequisite for being a reliable, focused, and effective teammate. It's what allows you to show up, ready to perform safely day after day. So let's bring this all together and circle back to a huge misconception. For decades, the default has been to see human error as the weakest link in any complex system. But this whole approach to resilience completely flips that idea on its head. What we've seen is that resilience isn't some magical quality you're born with. It's a practical skill that can be trained. It's about learning to challenge our own assumptions, to push past the things that block our decisions, and to treat our own well-being as a critical part of the entire safety system. Because here's the ultimate takeaway. When you properly train and support the human element, people are not the liability. They are the system's greatest asset. In a world full of surprises, it's the human mind that provides the creativity, the intuition, and the flexibility to deal with the unexpected. People are the #1 source of a system's resilience. And that's where we'll leave it. Now, these techniques were designed for seafarers, but the principles really apply to all of us. So here's a final thought for you. Where in your own life this week could you take a moment to climb down that ladder of assumption? Where could you benefit from reacting to the facts instead of the story you're telling yourself? Thanks so much for joining us.